grab it once I get the stream up. Go live.
Who sent you another thing?
This MEM2 or
Oh.
MET2.
There's Dennis. In the
Okay, yeah.
in the Google sheet.
Let me go find the We Are Live. There it is. Grab it once I get the stream up. Go to Twitter. Open the Slack.
I picked up a El Cheapo USB isolator.
Oh, yeah?
Because I'm getting this thing back up and running again, the bias test system. So we're gonna see if isolating is good for keeping 500 volts away from my laptop.
Did it blow up your laptop last time?
No, I don't want it to. So like $20 for an isolator is worth saving.
Make sure
laptop.
like it's actually truly isolation. Like it's
Yeah,
not
I
like
did.
sharing a ground or something.
It has a DC brick and a signal isolator. Like everything is separate. It's got like 5,000 volt isolation.
Okay.
I mean, it has Amazon specs. So who the hell knows
Amazon
what that
specs.
means, right?
So you don't have a bio in here yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask him to just write a sentence or two. It's hard to tell people how we do this. It's really easy how we do it, but it's hard to like get it across to people. Everyone I've told about how to be a guest on this show is always like, I'm like, just once you do it, you'll be fine, you know?
You just click the link.
You're right.
Hey,
Hey guys,
Dennis, how you doing?
good. Steven, how are you, buddy? How you doing, Parker?
doing really good.
Well.
Our podcast is live on YouTube right now. So what's going on?
Hey, well, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
How are you
so
doing
much.
today?
Really good.
Little under the weather today. That's why one of the reasons why I wasn't there last night.
Yeah,
But,
we missed you.
But show must go on.
Yeah.
So I may be hacking up a storm here during the show.
Seems like some of that stuff's going around. Definitely.
My family's in town this week, and they seem to bring it along with them.
That happens for sure.
We go from 2 people in the house to 9 people in the house, and 4 young children, and
Oh yeah,
sickness abounds.
it's the kids.
Parker, where do you reside? Are you in Colorado?
No, I am in Houston, Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I kind of had a sense that you weren't around this area.
Yeah, I was actually up
And what-
there 2 weeks ago to go skiing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And then where do you know Steven from? How did you guys connect and start doing the podcast?
He actually showed up at Macrofab wanting us to build him boards, and then he left with a job that day.
Okay.
And then about 2 months later, we started the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, Parker and I were the first 2 engineers at Macrofab, and I worked there for a little under 3 years with Parker
Good deal.
before moving up here.
So you originally, I'm sorry, I guess I'm interviewing you guys.
No worries.
No, totally fine.
Were you originally from down in Texas as well then, Steven?
Well, I'm born in Oklahoma, but I moved to Texas at a young age, and I lived in Houston for 22 years, minus a stint in college. But yeah, I've been up here for about 5 years, but it was Houston before that.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
So actually, Dennis, in our sheets, so we usually introduce our guests with a short bio.
Okay.
Do you happen to have just like a 1 or 2 sentence? Here's Dennis, kind of thing. We can write one up real quick.
I was born and raised in Colorado. Parents came from Eastern Europe. My dad was really into manufacturing, got me into manufacturing. We owned our own machine shop where we made replacement aircraft parts for 40 years.
You said your parents owned a machine shop? Or
Uh,
did they started one here?
my dad started it, and then myself and two brothers purchased it from him.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
We will certainly cover this in that's
yeah,
super interesting. Okay. So you worked at that from a young age?
yeah, from like 6 to 50.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Okay.
long time.
Okay. Let's see here. Not into. All right, I'm a terrible typer.
I'm not judging. And so after that, decided to go another way and ended up at the Mint,
Okay.
doing the same thing I always did there, running not a 20,000 square foot shop.
That is very cool.
Don't go explaining too much.
You said the tooling department, right?
Yeah, we make all the tooling that for coin presses go through a tremendous amount of wear with as many coins as we make. And then also all the tooling that holds the dies that puts the image on the coin. So we'll go into that stuff in a little more detail.
Fantastic. So yeah, we usually just do a quick little. So
Sure.
is this a 10,000-foot view of you? This sentence or
Yeah, I would
bio
say
view?
so.
Good enough. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And I always ask every guest this, even though I've known you for a short period of time. It's Dennis Szabo, right? Is that how it's
Correct.
pronounced?
That
Yeah.
is correct.
Having done this with gosh, at this point, probably, I don't know, 150, 200 guests, I've just learned you always ask how to pronounce.
You know, that is actually what I go by. But if you've noticed, I kind of got a strange spelling of my first name, and my
Yeah.
name is actually Danish,
Oh,
but I
okay.
go by Dennis. So, yeah, so my folks thought it'd be fun to give an old country name that, from the old country that makes it a little difficult for people to pronounce. So I just go with Dennis. It's easier.
Yeah. Our last name used to be Krejci, and my grandfather, or I'm sorry, his father felt that was a little bit odd for Americans to pronounce, so
Uh-huh.
they decided changing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very interesting story how my folks ended up here and stuff. I don't know if we want to spend too much time on that, but absolutely fascinating. Um,
Yeah. All right.
Is you just put at the Denver Mint, Steven? Should you put like the U.S. Denver Mint or something?
Yeah, that's fine.
it's called U.S. Mint Denver, actually, is the
Okay.
correct title.
U.S. Mint
Yeah.
Denver. Let's be appropriate. I've certainly walked by it multiple times, but I have not been in yet.
Yeah, maybe sometime I'll have to. They're still a little freaked out about COVID, but hopefully that's going away, and I can bring friends and family into the plant, and it's a fascinating tour. Yeah,
Oh, that
but
would be cool.
but haven't done it since before COVID, so
Okay.
there's still
Are
there's
they back to giving tours and everything?
they do public tours, but I haven't heard of anybody doing private internal ones like we used to. So
Sure.
I definitely could check on that though. It's there's been a lot of laxing, but these people are hanging on way longer than I would. Just saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a friend of mine, she works in a sleep department basically in Memorial Hermann down in Houston, and they just relaxed on their COVID rules. So
Yeah, it's yeah, I was done with them after the first 2 weeks, but quite
yeah,
frankly,
yeah. I would assume government jobs are kind of the first and last to jump on
yeah,
and
they
off.
they they think that we need to set that example. So
There you go.
we're just not all on board.
Yeah, yeah, and at the same time, when everyone else, how do I put this? Basically, when everyone else isn't doing it, is it is it still appropriate for you to do it?
Right? I agree with that statement.
Not necessarily that the masses should dictate your actions, but it does also raise the question: just why am I doing this now?
Right. Yeah, so we go live at 6 then? Is that what
Yeah,
happens?
we're fairly soon. Yeah, we usually just chat a little bit beforehand,
Yeah,
and
yeah, we can actually just kick it off now if we want to.
Yeah, I'm ready if you guys are.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Let me set up everything on this end.
You know what? I'm gonna change this to read a little bit.
What are you changing?
Actually, never mind. Sorry. It just reads a little goofy. I wrote it.
Sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we are recording. So, typically, Parker and I do the intro, and then we'll bring you in, and then from there, honestly, the way this goes, it's just a really conversational chat. Most of our listeners are very technical minded, so th- there's not much that you can say that goes over people's heads. So if you want to get into nitty gritty, that's totally fine.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
just see
so
where it goes.
we just have fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just go ahead and start then. Welcome to the Macrofab Engineering Podcast, a weekly show about all things engineering, DIY projects, manufacturing, industry news, and making money, literally. We're your hosts, electrical engineers, Parker Dillman.
And Stephen Craig.
This is episode 370.
Our guest this week is Dennis Szabo. Dennis was born and raised in Colorado. His parents owned a machine shop where Dennis worked from a young age until 50. Dennis now runs the tooling department at the U.S. Mint, Denver. So thank you so much for coming on, Dennis. We really appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get to know you guys and talk some engineering stuff.
So yeah, you work at the Mint, the tooling department at the Mint, actually making our U.S. currency. You know, it was funny. Right before we got on, I was like, you know what? I need to find some coins. So I just rummaged through my drawers right around my desk, and I found a dime, a quarter, a nickel, and a penny. And it's funny because I can't tell you the last time I've actually used a coin to purchase something.
It
But of
is
course,
getting rare.
I just had them right around me.
Right, right. So, yeah, are they Denver coins, by the way? Do you know how to tell the difference between?
I do not.
So down in there, the date, there's either a D or a P.
Okay.
Denver, Philadelphia, could also be sometimes there can be a San Francisco stamp on it. So
Let me look around. I'm not
I'm
seeing
looking
it
at,
right now.
I
so
see
I'm
that on
looking
my
at a,
quarter. Yeah, it's
Oh,
on.
I see.
your
Yeah, I see
quarter.
a D on this.
Yeah, so that's
dime.
produced in Denver. So they are marked at what mint they are produced at.
And so there's two major mints in the United States, correct?
So within the Treasury Department, we have actually 6 different departments within the U.S. Treasury Mint system. And so that is true. There's 2 major. That's Philadelphia, who produces circulating coinage. They also make a lot of metals at Philadelphia. They all the artwork comes from Philadelphia. That's where all our artists are and so forth. And then there's the Denver Mint that also makes circulating coinage and some collectible sets and so forth. Besides that, there is West Point, and West Point does bullion gold and silver. And so if you see any gold, walking liberties, or, they have the buffalo head coins now. I mean, see the Indian head and buffalo gold coins now, and some others. Those are produced in West Point. And matter of fact, I think West Point's entire year production is pretty much a day of Philadelphia or Denver's production, about 20 million coins. So actually, Denver and Philadelphia can produce closer to 30, 35 million coins if need be. And that's on a daily basis that we can put that out. Then there's San Francisco, which no longer does circulating coinage, but they do silver and collectible sets. And then within the system, we have Fort Knox, because not just do we make coinage for the American public, but we are also the keepers of the United States gold and silver. I shouldn't say silver. I know for a fact gold. And so within the mint system, the gold is spread out within the different buildings and so forth. And then lastly, we have headquarters. And so the 6 different facilities make up the mint system.
So can you, this is probably a very wide open, broad question here, but can you just step us through the process of how a coin gets made?
Yeah. And so we buy coils of the material, and you know that the dime and the quarter are a clad material, or it's sandwich material. There's some different materials put together, and that's for that we get a very unique coin weight rather than just if it was straight metal. And so with that, you can't just put a slug in a pop machine and for it to read it. It would just not have the same weight and would not register within that. And so we purchased the coils already sandwich material that way. And those come in anywhere from 3 to 10,000 pound coils. Coils are anywhere from 11.5 to maybe 13.5 inches wide, depending on the denomination. And those go through a blanking press. And so the blanking press, literally, we have, and that's part of the tooling that we care for within my own department, is we sharpen. We're going to be talking about 2 different dies here. So we have blanking dies that actually makes the round slug without the strip. And then we also have dies that put the image on. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that at the beginning. But so the blanking dies, they stroke about 18 blanks per stroke, and they'll stroke 700 times a minute. And so the coil feeds through there. They chew up coils pretty quick and can make a lot of blanks. And so the blanks, once they're made, the next thing that they have to do is the metal, we can't blank it soft. And it's been tried in the past. And if you blank it soft, they don't stay flat. They tend to cup.
Are you talking
So
about
we blank it.
You're talking about the hardening of the metal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's too soft, they will cup on us. So we blank them at a slightly harder Rockwell, and then they go in and they are annealed. And so we anneal them to soften them up so that we could put the image on.
So and that's all specified in the raw material that you received, correct?
Right.
So yes. Does it come pre-hardened, or do you all harden the roll?
No. We purchase the coil, and that is by our supplier, comes within our standards that we have set up with our supplier. That comes in at the right hardness. We blank them, then we anneal them to soften them up. Then they are washed and polished, every coin, through a large wash machine and so forth. And from there, what happens is the blanks get upset. And what the upset does is, if you look at a coin, if you got one with you, especially like a nickel or a penny, you can see that little edge around both sides of it. And so that edge is for several different things. One, if you try to stack a coin within the artwork, they wouldn't stack very well. So that makes a flat surface for it to stack on. Secondly, if you throw coinage down on the counter, which is regular life of a coin, if it always rubbed on the artwork would start to wear away. So that upset edge is what keeps the artwork off the surface that it's laying on to protect the art image, and that way coins last much longer that way. And go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I know I'm actually rubbing two quarters together. I never thought about that. That's just blew my mind.
Yeah. So yeah,
I never thought about that. And I'm like,
so that's what the upset's for.
okay, yeah.
And so they lay flat against one another as well as protecting the artwork. And then so once they're upset, at that point they go to a coining press, and they are fed in one at a time into a coining press, and the obverse and reverse, with the heads and the tails, we call them obverse and reverse, they are put onto the coin and as well, if you look at, like a quarter or a dime has the reading on it, and we'll talk about the reading, but also the diameter of a nickel or a penny is all finished in one hit. We finished the obverse, the reverse, and the diameter all in one strike. And coining presses can also stroke 700 to 750 strokes a minute. So that's about 12 and a half coins a second that'll come through there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So one of the things that coins have, like a quarter and a dime, it has the reading around the outside diameter. And do you know what the reading came from on why that's on a coin? Actually, back when coinage was silver or precious metals, gold or silver, it was a common practice with people that they would scrape a little off the diameter, take a little bit for themselves before they went to spend it.
So you're talking about the little ridges on the edge of
the knurling.
Right, yeah.
Knurling is what I would call it. So what was that called?
We call it reading.
Reading? Okay.
Yeah. So the reeds around the edge are so you can tell if somebody was to scrape off some of that precious metal before they handed you that coin. And that just came over from when we used precious metals. We still do it today within our coin design. So that's where that comes from.
But that doesn't exist on a nickel or a penny.
Yeah, and so it's for whatever reason, maybe when other denominations were made long before I was around, certainly, and I don't know the history of it. It's just quarter and dime on most of our, and also the 50-cent piece. I don't believe the dollar is not reeded either. So the dollar isn't, 50 cent is, quarter is, dime is, nickel and penny aren't. So however the designs came about, but that's what the reading was originally for. So you can tell if somebody had scraped the edge of your coin and taken some of its value away from it. So yeah, that's yeah. And right. So yeah, we're making anywhere between 20 and 35 million coins a day, and that's just Denver. That doesn't. I think Philadelphia does as many as well. And you think that, boy, that's an awful lot of coins, but it takes us, 8 days of production, 10 days of production before we can give every American citizen one coin. And so if you think about your ashtray in your car filled with coins, and then you have the jar on your dresser or in your closet, wherever, everybody's got a coin jar somewhere. And so it takes a long time to fill all that up. Nonetheless, all the ones that are lost within, the pillows and cushions of your couch and can be destroyed and so forth. Something that's very interesting about the U.S. Mint and all the coins that we produce is there's never been a recall program. We've never had coins returned and made new ones or whatever. Every coin the U.S. Mint has ever made is still out in circulation or in some collector's vault or wherever they may be. Unlike paper money, which is made at the Federal Reserve, they, about every 5 years, I heard at this point, they try to, if you collect a 2023 paper dollar, within 5 years, they're pretty much out of circulation. They get old really quick because they're taken out of circulation and new are put it back in. And that's not true of coinage. That is all out there from everyone that's ever been made. Now, there is an exception to that. There was a time during World War II where they made some gold coins. And the gold coins, because of the war effort, the president said these cannot be circulated, and they were destroyed and put the gold made back into just bullion for whatever they used it for the war effort. It was at that time, I think 6 or 8 coins got out, and they're very, very valuable. I know a collector in Saudi Arabia, I think, has one, and there's a few others, and it's been contested because none should have ever circulated. So somebody within the mint system removed those, and yeah, so that there was some contention to that years ago, I think back in the 90s, but they finally, I think the feds backed off and said they let those 6, 8 coins remain out there, and so they're within collectors at that point. Yeah.
So the creation of the tooling that goes. So you said two major tools. I'm sure plenty more, but you have
Yeah.
the blanking tools, and then what was the name of the other that imprints the image?
Yeah, so we call those dies as well.
Okay.
So there is within the Denver Mint, which is very interesting about the Denver Mint, is we have almost every trade within the building. I mean, we have electricians, we have electronic control technicians, we have woodworkers, we have plumbers, we have pipe fitters, we have machinists, we have tool makers, you name just about any trade, locksmiths, we have them all within the building because the security of getting people in and out is somewhat difficult. Getting clearance for people on a regular basis when we do need to bring in contractors or whatever, it's time consuming, and clearances wear out really quick. When I first came to the Mint, they allowed them to live about 3 to 4 months, and sometimes now they expire in like 10 days. And so it's a lot easier to have all those trades within house. So if we need something done, then we have that trade and we have the tools to do it. So I actually have the privilege of working at the Mint and running what is called the Plant Engineering Machine Shop. And in the Plant Engineering Machine Shop, we make about 215 different replacement parts for presses that wear. And, you can imagine when you're making 30 million coins a day, just that amount of metal rubbing on things just wears things out. And so we make those wear parts. We have a supply section within the Mint that makes sure that there's always some in stock. And so they're my biggest customer. They order from me, and we make the parts that they're short on and keep supply filled so coining operation can go forward. So that's one machine shop within the Denver Mint, is that one within Plant Engineering that I work in. But then there's also another machine shop, and they call that the die shop. And pretty much all they do there is they make the dies, and those are the images that are put the image onto the coin. And so depending on the artwork, depending on whether, nickels do have nickel in it, and they're very tough to stamp. Unlike, pennies and annealed dimes and quarters are much easier to stamp. And so dies wear out quite regularly, and we've got, I think, 56 presses within there. So you need an obverse and reverse for every press. And, after it all depends on the artwork. I mean, some artwork, they go through a lot more dies. Other artwork, they last longer. I do know if you have a somewhat recent nickel, you'll see that Thomas Jefferson's head is offset. And that is difficult to make that image on one side of the coin, and it's not centered like other heads and other figures that are on the coin. And so that offset head is more difficult to get fill to make the metal move and get to where it needs to be. And so those go through a lot more dies on those nickels than, let's say, maybe a penny would or something like that. And that's a completely different division, and they call that the die division. And they have another entire machine shop in the plant there that just makes those. Yeah. And they take those very seriously. I mean, every die, when it's born, it's serialized and it's tracked its entire life. And it hasn't happened the 8 years I've worked at the Mint, but I've heard stories that dies go missing and they lock the plant down. Nobody goes home. No doors, nobody goes in and out until every die is accounted for. And so they take it very seriously, the security of the building, who has dies, where they're at. They all have to be accounted for and destroyed once they're no longer making a proper image. And then they're accounted for that they're no longer have any life in it. They're destroyed, and then they can be recycled at that point.
They don't want some random person making an additional 20 million coins on the side, right?
Yeah, that would really cut into the government's business there. So
Yeah.
you got to watch that. Yeah.
I was thinking about the beginning of it too. I imagine the material, because you're getting like the materials like automatically, like you're getting it clad already. I imagine
Yes.
that supply chain is also very secure in terms of like that manufacturer can only make that for you.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And I actually think they make it for Philadelphia and Denver, and I think it's pretty much I don't know for a fact, but it could be their entire business that they have a contract to supply for us, and I don't absolutely cannot supply it for anybody else. I have heard some stories that like when we make coins, you when you find a improperly struck coin within circulation, suddenly it becomes a collector item, and then some of them could be worth a whole lot of money. And what makes it worse so much is that we make 30 million coins a day, and you can hardly find a poorly struck or an incorrectly struck coin. And so we have a quality system to make sure bad coins do not leave the Denver Mint. And so every coin press operator, they within every 10, 15 minutes, we have a catch box that all the coins being made stay in that box until a coin is inspected, it's correct, and then that's released to go into the rest of the coinage usage. So we can stop any bad coin getting out of the building. It's unfortunate. We certainly try to avoid it at all costs. They work very hard within coining and the plant security and everything that things aren't wasted. But I've literally seen $2 million worth of coins destroyed because they thought there could be a bad coin in there. We do not want a bad coin to leave the building, and quality is number one. We got we of course we want to do safety within our team and stuff, but outside of that, within our production, we want to make sure a bad coin doesn't leave the plant. And that's why when a coin is found, it shows up on eBay, and it's all of a sudden it's worth $35, because something went wrong, it was struck incorrectly, or possibly a die could have cracked and an operator didn't catch it. And so it's a big deal, and they really do a good job watching it. And you can imagine 30 million of anything, I mean, even 30 million grains of sand, it's hard to be consistent and keep that quality up. And so that's something the Denver Mint does very well, and proud to be a part of that.
So how does that inspection work? Is that I can't imagine that there's one person looking at 30 million coins a day.
No, there's a computer doing it.
Yeah. You know what? And we don't use that much computer image to test and watch our coins. It's more human interaction. We have a quality department that checks the clad metal that's coming in, checks the density of it, checks the hardness, checks all the different things within that to make sure that part of the coinage is correct. Then we have operators running the coining presses, and they are literally inspecting coins under magnification, not at each coin, but lots of coins. This lot, okay, looks like we're good. So they allow that lot to go into the general population of the coin production. But we try to isolate everything, until it passes those inspection points before we allow it into the rest of the coin population. So
okay, so that makes way more sense now.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I thought I saw something a little while ago where there was 100% optical inspection, but I guess not. I guess it's just
we are not doing that.
testing.
I know for a fact we do use some camera work and so forth for packaging our proof sets. Aligning coinage and stuff, which is really neat. Pick up coin, flip it over, turn it upside down, whatever it needs to, so all the coins are in the right side up in a package. We do use it for things like that, but pretty much all the inspecting of it is human interfaced, and pretty amazing.
Well, that means you put a lot of faith in your tooling.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the operators as well. So
Sure.
I kind of explained the die shop. They just make the dies that put the image on. Within our shop, we some of the more critical things we do is we make all the tooling that holds the dies. And so, those wear out every couple weeks on, 50, 60 presses. So we do go through a certain amount of that. And I have a group of tool makers and machinists that work in our department. We run 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and do overtime as well. So as well as we make the parts, we inspect the parts and supply them to supply. We also, there's a certain things that there's technical setups within the presses. When parts are replaced, they have to be shimmed in and have certain clearances and stuff. So my guys have that technicality to get those things lined up for press operators and stuff like that. So we also help out with the presses in setting them up. But outside of that, we really do no coin production within my section there. We just work on the tooling and build that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead, Stephen. Go
ahead. How do you guys handle preventative maintenance on tooling? Do you know the number of presses it's done and take it out of service before it breaks, basically?
So once again, the plant engineering division that I work in, the machine shop and the die sharpening of the blanking dies is just one portion of it. The other portion, we have mechanics and electricians and everything, and we do have a lot of our equipment up on PMs, regular PMs, to make sure they're getting the care they need and so forth. Some of the parts are, the press quits running and they start changing parts on it. I think we could do slightly better job at that than we do. And I'm not judging anybody there. Everybody's working hard and doing it. But I think we can use some improvement on how we're deciding when to change parts. There's a lot of people who work down in the coining division, and they have a job to do as well. Mine kind of gets concerned when you're using up so many of my parts, it keeps us busy. So I'm thinking like, are you sure it's worn out or not? So I think we could work better at that, but by no means, I'm not judging anybody. Those guys do a great job down in coining. It's just not necessarily their focus, So that's something that we watch out for. Within our shop, excuse me, we have 5 CNC lathes, 4 CNC mills. We have lasers. We have 3D printers. We have a lot of equipment. The federal government does very well to supply us with the tools we need to get the job done. And so, yeah, we got, I think it's right under 20,000 square foot is the shop that I run. And we have a lot of equipment in there. Much of the critical tooling that holds the dies, I mean, we're talking 10th tolerances. That's to the 4th decimal point that the tolerances that we're holding parts to. And so everything is soft turned, heat treated, hard turned, and then ground into final dimensions.
Do you do that treating, the heat treating on site, or is that you receive it that way and then grind it in?
No, we do the heat treating on site. And matter of fact, in the die division, who makes the dies to put the image on, they have the heat treating equipment for their dies. And so that's where I become their customer, and they help me out and do the heat treating down there.
So you really do have it all under one roof.
We really do. And it's kind of an amazing place. And maybe someday I can show you guys the inside of it. But they do an amazing job there with all the different divisions to get that job done. And we really feel like we do it for the American people. People talk about like, well, I heard we lose money on pennies. When are we going to quit doing pennies? None of that is the Mint's decision to do those things. All those, every piece of artwork, what image is going to be on a coin, what coins we are going to make and so forth, that all comes from Congress. Every image that goes on a coin, whether it was the 50 state program that we did, you all seen the quarters from all 50 states and stuff. That ran from about 1999 to 2009. And so we're not going to make those quarters again. Those 50 state quarters are done. So if you're looking for one, the longer you wait, the more difficult it is going to be to finish that collection and so forth. And then we went to America the Beautiful, where we were doing, national parks and so forth. And so I think that program just finished up in 2021. And so I heard some other new programs that are coming out. But it's interesting. Once we make those coins on those quarters, it's not like, well, let's start up the 50 state program again. That's gone. It's over. And so we're not going to make any more of those. And it makes it a little more collectible and so forth.
The
Kind of lost my chain
dies are
there.
gone.
The dies are gone. I mean, we could produce them again, but that's something we made one time, and it's special. And I've heard that we are not going to revisit those things. But nonetheless, we were talking about all those things coming from Congress. I believe there's good people within the Mint system that says, hey, we need a new project. How about this? How about that? But once again, it's Congress that okays those things. So a question I get asked all the time: when are we going to quit making pennies? And I'm just like, it's up to those guys up in the Capitol. I'm not the Capitol, but in Congress. And it's not up to the Mint system to do that. And so we do lose money on making a penny. We lose money on making a nickel. And with that, we believe it's a service to the United States people and those who use the American currency. We provide it for them to do commerce within the country. And so that's what it's for. We're not a for-profit business, although we do make profit. We are one of the very few, and maybe the only one right now, that are a self-supporting federal entity. And so we support all ourselves and pay for everything it takes to make the coinage and so forth. And we put over $500 million back into the Treasury at the end of the year last year from the profit we did make. And where we make the profit, it costs us about 9 cents to make a quarter. So the difference of that, the rest of it is where we get our profit. It costs us about 4 cents to make a dime. And so we make up the loss we do on a penny. We make up the loss that we do on a nickel. And we end up on the positive end of that at the end of the year. So I don't think there's too many government entities, including the post office, that is on a positive end of making money. So it might just be the U.S. Mint system or the Treasury.
And everybody else is.
Yeah, well, actually, the Treasury, the IRS is part of the Treasury system. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But that's where the big bucks come from. Yeah.
So earlier you said that your shop alone is 20,000 square feet.
I think close. Yeah, it might be 19 or something like that.
How big is the Mint itself?
I don't know that answer. It's a big building. It looks like, if you see a picture of the Denver Mint, it looks like 3 stories from the outside, but it's actually more than that. There's about 5 or 6 stories inside of it, and so there's a lot of square footage. But it's literally the Denver Mint. And I've spent some time at the Philadelphia Mint, which a lot of our programs originate from Philadelphia and so forth. And I got to spend some time there working on a project. And I think you can fit about 5 Denver Mints within the Philadelphia Mint. It's very large. So we consider ourselves small, and as far as mints go around. But, they love that building. It was completed in 1906 when the first coins were stamped in Denver. And they like the history of the building. And so since the original Denver Mint, it was built in 1906. Sometime in the 40s, there was an addition. And then sometime in the 80s, there was an addition. And I'm pretty sure that's where we sit right now with the Denver Mint. But I'm sorry, I don't know the square footage of the building.
It honestly, like looking at the picture, it doesn't, because I've never seen it in person. It doesn't look that big. But then you said 20,000 square feet for just your shop alone. And then there's another shop that's coinage. And then all the
coining,
presses.
yeah.
Or coining,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then all the presses. Plus then inbound inspection for all the material.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's we are pretty we real estate is very much a premium, you know. And matter of fact, I remember when I first got there and I was doing some rearranging of the shop and so forth, and they made me a deal if I gave up some square footage, they'd give me, put these machines over here and stuff. So it's a premium. There's only so much square foot there. They like I said, they love the building. It's not going anywhere. They're not moving us out of it. We have to do it. That's something that's very interesting too. Is the spaghetti diagram of the workflow is not super. Yeah, it's a mess, quite frankly. But it's because it's an old building and things have changed. Coining's done on this floor, but dies are sharpened on that floor, and we don't have room to keep them there, so we store them on that floor. And so when coining needs them, we got to bring them down to their floor, and so there's a lot of moving around that makes it inefficient. But once again, it's a neat place to work, and just a historic building and so forth is very interesting.
It is also interesting because if you visit the Capitol here in Denver and you're just walking around, you can easily miss it. Just because it's not like in your face, and I'm sure there's plenty of reasons why that building would not be in your face, but you could just walk by and be like, oh, well, that's where they do it, right there.
Yeah, I think I was even amazed when I first got hired and went into the building how industrial it is inside there. Everything around us is office buildings and, that kind of soft office type work and stuff. And it is a full industry there. I mean, we've got 25 forklifts running back and forth inside, picking up buckets and moving scrap. And it's a busy place and very industrial of making metal product. And even when I first went in there, I didn't expect it to be that industrial. And it very much is so. Yeah.
Yeah, the outside of the building doesn't give that appearance for sure.
Right. Yeah. It looks much more timid than what actually happens with inside there, I would say. Yeah.
So, quick question actually about new coins. So, how first of all, how are new coins or new designs, should I say, delivered to you, and then how are they approved?
So, new images and new designs, once again, that comes from Congress. They decide, like right now, we're working on the Women's Quarter program. I think it's about 6 different quarters highlighting different women within society and so forth. And those are the program we are working on right now. So those designs come from Congress and are approved. Then it's within Philadelphia that the artists actually make the design. Okay, so it was approved that we're going to do the women's program. The artist makes the maybe initial drawing that is approved by Congress, and then they actually make the design. And from there, we get a copy of it. Not being too technical on how that happens, but we get a copy of it, and then we make that the master that we make our other dies from.
So I'm sure you have to make some quantity for an initial acceptance, right? Do you have a special line for that, or do you just tool up one of the main lines and make a handful and then get that approved?
So there's different things. There's a numismatic division within the Denver Mint, and the numismatics is the collectible coins that come in proof packs and that type of thing. We have different types of presses there that have the opportunity to press with a lot more tonnage, can multiple strike coins to get the type of finishes that we need on it and stuff. You might be familiar with, we did the baseball coin years ago. It was a very popular program. I think it came out 2006, 2008, and I mean, those got sold up right away. And so that was actually a curved coin. One side looked like a ball, and then the inside pocket, the convex side, looked like a catcher's mitt, And so they're talking about maybe doing some more of those. And we do that within numismatics. And those, we call them test strikes. So when the die's built, there's been times we've had to make custom tooling to hold the custom dies to make those type of things, because all the sizes are different and so forth. And So our shop has been able to participate in that, making that special tooling to hold those. And so there are tests, and there's been times where we've had to change how hard they're hit, how often they're hit. Had to There's different complications that certainly work through. As far as circulating coinage, they're very strict. I mean, once January 1 comes around, you cannot hit a 2022 coin anymore, or you cannot hit a 2023 prior to January 1. I mean, if there's a date on that coin, it is produced in that year. And so there is a time at the end of the year, and I'm not completely clear on the process because I don't work with it. I'm just familiar with it because it happens within the building. But they sanitize all the presses, and they sanitize the old dies, make sure that they are taken out of, that it can't be accidentally confused with a 2023 die or something. And then once everything is sanitized and we're sure they're gone, then they introduce the new year, and that happens every year. So.
Oh yeah, there's a big changeover right at the end of the year.
Yes,
So you have to prep up for that.
yes. Especially the die division who produces all those dies. They're still producing dies to produce the 2022, which just happened at the end of last year. But they're also prepping, making the next year's dies, and make sure that the moment that changeover happens, that there's enough of everything. So, and then not to overproduce. It's a big deal within the mint system. We talk about it regularly, scrap rates, how much that we're, making and not using. It's a big deal. So we try to do our best to be good stewards of the American people's money with that.
Yeah, I imagine when it's, all that changeover is, that's like the also try to catch up on maintenance and building parts and that kind of stuff from your division.
Yes. And so, my division, we're producing parts year round, but when the presses aren't running and stuff, it gives our mechanics, electricians, and so forth to do PMs on machines and that type of thing. So it's never a downtime. We're always working. Matter of fact, when coining's down, we get busier, and so that is something that happens. There's also a time in the year where they do inventory of everything and account for all the coilage, all the coinage, and where everything is. And so there's an inventory done. And for a lack of a better reason, we shut the plant for a couple of weeks to stop everything and count it, see where we're at, and make sure the books are good. And so when they shut down, many coin division people are vacationing and stuff. But our division, nobody's allowed to vacation. That's when everybody all decked on hand. So yeah, we got to be there.
Your CNCs and lathes must be running constantly.
So within my shop, they don't run constant. I have 12 great guys who work for me. I think the world of all of them. They are so talented and skillful within metalworking and the tool making and stuff that they do. I'm really proud of all of them. They give our shop a fantastic name. But I have 12 of them, and we basically have 4 per shift. So 4 day, 4 swing, 4 night shift. Guys that are always on staff to make sure we can support coining. We call the blanking of the strip our amp division. We also watch our dies and help them when they have errors or die faults and so forth. We go down and help them work with that. But whenever they're not doing that, they are producing parts. So within that much of a space, sometimes, all my night shift guys do all this type of work. So, during the day shift, there's no one over in that area in the shop, but it switches around. When night shift comes in, that area of the shop lights up, and they're working on those parts of the project. So they're not running all the time, but the amount of equipment we have is good because sometimes, if we get behind on something, and it does happen, then we throw it on multiple machines, make sure multiple shifts to make sure things get done. And if we pretty much run out of anything, we could stop the coining process. So it hasn't happened to the point where we as a division, me as our shop, have missed something. There has been some accounting errors where they thought they had them and they didn't, and so that put the red light on us to get going. because the last thing we want to do is stop the coining process. It's amazing that between Philadelphia and us, we put out 60 million coins a day, and it's not enough. The American public will consume even more of it just through attrition of loss, and then also the population growth, and that pretty soon, when you guys have kids, if you don't yet, when you do, they will have a coin jar, and they will have their ashtray in their car full, and it just grows on and on. And so need lots of coins to feed the American people.
So you said 30 million coins, like how many trucks, one, bringing in material and then trucking material coinage back out is just boggles my brain.
So we
that
don't
many units.
We really don't have storage for coils. We have a little bit of coin storage that when we're making it, but it's we have an entire division that just schedules trucks in and out. And I'm telling you, our dock is busy all day long, in and out. Trucks come in, and every truck is checked by security. The Denver Mint has its own police force. It originated, if I believe I'm correct, it originated that they were the first Secret Service. And not just did they, help, their first job was to have the protection of the heritage, not the heritage, but of the money of the United States. And then that went on to protect the president, and then it was separated at that point. And then the Mint became their own police department. And so they check every truck coming in, every truck coming out, every person coming in, every person going out. I mean, even with I'm already cleared to go into the plant and so forth, if I need to go to the dock and step off the dock, they wand every person and check what there's on them and why they're going down off the dock. So it's the complexity of even coming into the Mint or leaving the Mint. It's everything moves slightly slower, and yet we still do 30 million coins a day. It's kind of fascinating.
And also, we mentioned it earlier. This is also happening in a downtown location.
Yes.
All that transportation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The trucks come and go every 15, 20 minutes all day long, starting at 5 a.m. And I think they shut the dock down about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But all day long, those trucks are coming and going, and scheduled what coinage, what coils we need, depending on what coins we're making. And we just have no storage for the coins we make. Those go out in 2,000-pound large bags. We do not do any of the rolling of coins or anything. We only sell coins to one person. It's the Federal Reserve Bank, and we only sell it to them in bulk in 2,000-pound bags. And so once they purchase that from us, they send it to other vendors that roll it, box it, and send it to banks for distribution.
You said 2,000-pound bags?
Correct.
I just imagine like the old cartoons with the money symbols on the side of it. Right?
Yeah, they're white bags, and they're heavy-duty nylon. They are not reused. They very heavy. The bag itself also, we have custom pallets that the bags go on to, and the pallets are reused, but bags are not. So the pallet holds on to the bag, so it support the weight and so forth. I think a bag of quarters is like $50,000 or something that is in it. And like I said, we don't have that much storage. So once coins are made, they pretty much need to leave the building. If we're not shipping coins out, I mean, we got to stop. There's nowhere to put them. Real estate is at a premium in the plant, and there's nowhere to store up coins. So it comes in and moves right back out.
Did COVID make things difficult?
So what happened with COVID, and I'm sure you've heard, or a lot of your listeners have heard, that there was a coining shortage during COVID and stuff, and it was not. We never quit making coins during COVID. The problem was there was a scare, and people were afraid to handle coins, and so rather than handle it twice, they only handled it once and then stored it, and so it was a circulation issue. That the coins were not circulating. They were not circulating out of restaurants and bars or or they were not circulating out of banks and stores. They were all sitting there. And so there was plenty of coinage. It just nobody was moving it. And we never stopped making coins. Even through the entire COVID time, we continued to make coins at the same rate we are today.
So yeah, so basically people just stopped using it, or it just went right into their coin jar.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or,
Okay.
it was in, the coin drawers at stores that nobody wanted to use. Everybody was using plastic and so forth. So everything just stopped moving. And that's what actually happened. It was not a shortage. It was just nobody was circulating it. And then so all of a sudden, people who did have a supply of them were like, hey, where's my coins? I need them. And so I even remember the grocery store where we grocery shop, they asked for coins and they said, we're not giving coins back to people and stuff. And it's not because there was a shortage. It's just, once again, it just wasn't circulating.
Yeah, I would think that orchestrating all the timeliness that is necessary to execute what you guys do would just be that much more difficult during COVID.
And it was. And so everybody was wondering what COVID was. Nobody knew what the severity of it was and stuff. We know much more today. But what we did right now, we have overlapping shifts. So one shift hands off to another, and we pass down notes. We pass down what's going on, like within my department, but within coining, it gives people time to clean up, but coin presses keep running. The new people come in. So what we did during COVID is we had no overlap. So one shift was leaving before the other came in, and that way, without the overlap, we were trying to do the social distance thing and so forth. And so it made it a little more challenging, but I think we hit all the numbers we always have, and everybody just worked a little harder through that. But I'm once again, your listeners and stuff. I mean, depending on where you work, what you do. Prior to me coming to the Mint, I worked at a family machine shop. My dad started. He came from Hungary in 1956 during the Hungarian Revolution, where he resisted the Russian troops that came into Hungary. And when the resistance didn't work out, he was seriously concerned whether he would be jailed or shot. And so in a moment, sitting at dinner, married to my mom for like 2-3 months, 5 months they've been married, they decided that we're leaving Hungary. And the next morning they left with what was on their back and came to the United States, who then Vice President Richard Nixon helped the Hungarian refugees come to the United States. And my dad, he was raised in, kind of a technical area of Hungary, and went to a technical college. And so metalworking was what he was trained on and so forth. So once he was established here, he had some other jobs and so forth. But once he was established, it was his dream to start a machine shop, and he did, and made a lot of things for high-tech businesses around the Denver area and so forth. Later, as my dad aged, my two brothers and I purchased the shop from him, and we purchased it. That was his retirement by us purchasing it from him. So that became his retirement. And we ran the shop for about 20 years after my dad did. But I'm the youngest of my two other brothers, and they were about ready for retirement. And so they wanted to retire. And quite frankly, business was not good enough for me to take it and buy out 2/3 of the company. And so at that point, we decided to sell it, and so they can have their retirement money out of it and so forth as well. I just didn't. There was times through the metal manufacturing and machining within the Denver region, there was a time it's just very, very competitive. I can remember prices did not go up from 2000 to 2015. They went down. And we were doing things, even though our cost of electricity, our cost of materials, our cost of labor, everything that went into what we were making went up, yet we were doing it for cheaper. Otherwise, we were not getting the work. And it just, unfortunately, machining is something, there's a lot of people who are good at it. A lot of people in Europe, a lot of people in Taiwan and Korea that are very good. They can make parts there and ship it to us for cheaper than we can do it here with American wages and regulation and that type of thing. So when it got to the point whether I would buy it and continue to run the shop. It was just, I did not see that profit margin there to buy my two brothers out and keep the business going. So I said, okay, let's sell it. You guys can retire. I still had a few years in me, so that's how I ended up at the Mint. And doing the same thing there, running a shop, pretty much same kind of parts and stuff. When we had our own shop, we were making replacement aircraft parts for the military. Was our biggest customer at the end of our run. But prior to that, we did a lot of computer parts, medical parts, a lot of high-tech industry that's just around here. And that's where I got my metalworking experience as well. So when I ended up and landed at the Mint and became the supervisor of the tool-making division, it was like almost exactly what I did. I'm just doing it for the American people now.
Yeah, second nature.
Yeah, it's what I've done. I think I started working for my dad when I was 6, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but my mom and dad didn't know what the heck to do with me, so I went to work with them. I mean, by the time I was 8, I was running lathes and mills, and I was working, and Dad was always, had the entrepreneur spirit, and he's like, "You want a bike?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Come to work." You want a motorcycle?
Make
"Yeah."
one.
He goes, "Come to work." And so that was always work for Dad prior to going to work for myself and then for the United States Mint.
Well, that's very cool. Do you have anything else you want to cover, Parker?
No, just this is just super fascinating. Something I've never even thought about. I think I saw like a how it's made a long time ago about like pressing coins, but they don't talk about like all the other stuff that makes all that even possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of backstory to getting that coin to the press. I mean, ultimately, and I tell my guys that sometimes, when we're doing meetings and so forth, I go, we're all here to make coins, even though we never make any of them, but we're here to make coins. We got to make sure they have the parts, they have the tooling, that they have the blanking dies sharpened, that they have what they need, that nothing we do hold them up to their task.
Yeah, and just like what you said, where like you have all the trades in house, like you don't have contractors. You just have someone in the building that can go do whatever it is.
You have Bob right down there.
And 90% of it we do inside, but there are things that don't necessarily exceed our technical skill sets, but we just don't have the manpower. So we do at times bring in contractors, and we have electricians that work at the plant full time, all 3 shifts and stuff, but we still can't keep up. So sometimes we have an electrical contractor come in, or possibly a plumbing or pipe fitting project that is just exceeds what we can get done with our manpower. But just about everything we try to do ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, very
it's a
cool.
neat place.
Well, we really thank you for coming on.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you doing that. This is so I know Dennis through my church, and the first time he mentioned that he worked in the tooling department, I was like, okay, I got to talk to this guy. It sounds really cool.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's like I was starting to say, it's an honor to work for the Mint. There's only like 375 people in Denver, maybe about that many, maybe a few more in Philadelphia, West Point, and San Francisco, even much smaller. So literally there's maybe 1,000 of us that do all of this. And it's really an honor to make the coinage for the American people. There's not many people who do it. And it's a cool place to work. It really is.
Well, I'm hoping that next time I'm in Denver, I can go take a tour.
Well, I tell you what, the invitation is open. I can, and I have in the past, brought in friends and family to show them inside tour. It's just this whole COVID thing's still a little bit of a question. Although we are bringing some contractors in again, because there was a time we didn't even bring in contractors. I haven't seen, nor have I asked if they would be open to having friends and family come in again. But I think we should be close to that if we're not already there. So
Well, Parker and I are
certainly
just
hit me
wear
up.
shirts that say contractor across the front, and we'll be good to
That
go.
works.
Was it the a helmet and a high vis vest gets you anywhere, but maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe not in the
that's
mint
right.
though.
You know something that we go through tighter than airport security to get in the building, and it's even tighter to get back out. And so you can't get a paper clip out of there. It's literally, they're pretty serious about it. I was at West Point where they do the gold and so forth. I spent a week up in West Point for a different project I worked on. And they literally have machines, and we don't have this in Denver. They measure the metal in your body. I mean, your cavities, everything. And so you got to pass through this machine like 3 times to get the same metal amount. And then you go in and do your work. And when you come out, that metal's got to match. You can't have more or less. You got to have that much metal to get in or out of the building. And so, yeah, they take the security very seriously.
Yeah, don't need a bowl of Wheaties while you're there, right? You might have a little bit more iron in you.
Yeah, who knows? That could get you in trouble there for sure.
Well, cool. Thanks, Dennis, for coming on this podcast and talking about your occupation, because this is just it's fascinating.
The honor was mine, really. I do appreciate you guys inviting me, and I wasn't aware of your podcast, and still Steven brought it up, so maybe I'll become a listener here, so I'm going to go check it out.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the Macrofab Engineering Podcast. We were your host, Stephen Craig.
And Parker Dillman.
Take it easy.
Later, everyone. So, Dennis, I'm going to do like the outro real quick. Thank you, yes, you, our listener, for downloading our podcast. If you have a cool idea, project, or topic, let Steven and I know. Tweet us at Macrofab, at Longhorn Engineer, or at AnalogENG, or email us at podcast@macrofab.com. Also, check out our Slack channel. You can find it at macrofab.com/Slack. Okay, so just
If you
hang
could
on.
just hang on for just 1 second. Basically, the files just upload to Parker, and he'll let you know when he has everything.
Sure. Not a problem.
Ah, that was fantastic.
Well, I
Awesome.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It was fun to share. And to be honest with you, I didn't get into any more nitty gritty because I don't think they would appreciate me being any more nitty gritty than I was actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.